So we are live on YouTube now, and our next speaker is Brigadier Sushil Bhasin. I request Rimaji to read his bio.
Abi Pranam,
If I
everybody.
may suggest, that is too long a bio. Just say a few lines. I'm sure you'll be able to. I tried to get it from a picture, but that is not available right now.
No problem. You do one thing. You just speak a little bit about you, and let's start. Sorry, Rimaji.
No problem.
Okay, yeah, that'll give me more time. That is why. Okay. So, Jai Hind and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we will be taking up a subject which I think is very close and very important to everyone. Particularly, we are going to be talking in the context of business leaders. I believe that every business owner becomes a business owner for one thing, that there are two conditions being met. One, that you have a business idea, and secondly, finances which you have been able to organize to get going. But the business cannot go forward, cannot grow till you become a leader. So a business owner must become a business leader. And when you become a business leader, now is the biggest challenge that you are going to be a business, that you're going to be a communicator. I want to tell you one thing, that communication is the number one skill set on the planet. While I'm doing that, let me share my screen. Just 1 second. Where's my, okay. No. Okay, is the screen visible?
Yes.
Sorry for this little.
It's okay, sir. Be comfortable, sir. No problem.
Okay, sorry for this. Right. So, communication is the number one skill set on the planet. And why do I say that? Without communication, you cannot learn any other skill. Whatever skill you learn, communication is involved. And communication is not talking. It is only 7% of the entire communication. Communication is also listening skills. It is about your body language. It is about your tonality. And therefore, a business leader needs to get this one thing right. Most business failures are not because of competence lacking, they are because of communications. We'll go through a little bit of it to understand, and if we had more time, I would organize some breakout rooms, but that will not be possible in 25 minutes. So today we'll do a little shorter part of it. So let's go forward to understand why am I saying communication is the number one skill set? Why is it important for all business leaders to master this skill and understand that it is not about what you speak, it is also about what you listen and what you understand of the environment around you. So if I was to ask you all, if I am talking to you, who is the communicator? Anyone? Can you answer that? Who's the communicator? Now between me and you, who's the communicator?
Both.
Both.
Okay, both is a good answer. But what I want you to understand the receiver, most importantly, the receiver. Why? Because if I was talking to a wall, I could do anything, but there will be no response. So I am not a communicator till there is somebody to listen and receive that. Let's understand one thing very clearly. What is communication? What is communication? Communication is a transfer of a knowledge, of idea, of experience, which goes from me to you. If it goes absolutely clearly that whatever I said, you understood the same thing, then it is good communication. But if you did not understand, and I said, I'm a great speaker, I spoke so clearly, that communication has failed. And that is what we'll talk about today. How do communications fail and why? So I just told you what is communication, but let's go to the next thing. Who is a CEO? Anyway, I think I had to animate these slides, something went wrong. Okay. So when I left the army and started my own company, I was the CEO, but not the CEO you know about. I was the chief everything officer. I was there with one driver and we started. My partners were in Delhi, and the first program we did, first ever program with Tata Communication. And let me stop the slide because that should not have. Okay. Sorry. Again, I made a mistake.
Shall I stop the sharing, sir?
No. Okay. So what happened was I did a first corporate training of Tata Indicom. After about a month, when I had to pay the salary of that one driver who I had, I found there was no money. And then I remembered the only money that had to come from was Tata Communication. So I called up and I said, I am Brigadier Bhasin from Empower. I wanted to know what's the status of our payment. We had done a training program with you and we haven't got the money. So this lady who's on the other end says, sir, but we haven't received your invoice. I realized, I told you I'm the chief everything officer. I said, what the hell are you saying? I typed out the invoice myself. I put it in the envelope. I put the address on it. I went in my car to the post office and did a speed post. And I've got an acknowledgement. I've got the receipt. What are you talking about? I yelled at her. I said everything I wanted to say. I expressed all my anger and frustration. And I got tired. She didn't intervene. But when I finished, she says, sir, now can I say something? I said, yes, please. She said, sir, I make a check when I receive the invoice, not when you send it. I got my first lesson of communication here. It is not what I said, it is what they received. It is not what they received, it is how they received. Who's the implementer? When you're talking to your teams, you're asking your teams to implement something. But you said something that they have to assume. They have to assume. And there comes another story of mine. I was commanding a unit, and in the midst of when I was very busy and doing something very important, an unexpected, unwanted friend landed up as a guest. I couldn't say no to him because he had come from a long distance. So I let him come into my office and I said, how are you? And I said, I'm a little busy. Can we be brief? Tell me what you want. So he said, I wanted something from the canteen. Something so unofficial. I thought somebody should not have disturbed me in the office for that. So I gave him a piece of paper and I said, just write down what you want. And he wrote, and now I wanted to get rid of him fast. So I asked him to get a cup of tea and called we have a chap called Stick Oddly, like a peon. So I told him, ये canteen से ले आओ. जो इसके ऊपर लिख कर दिया वो canteen से ले आओ. And now the tea is finished. The items have not come. And I'm waiting that the moment they come, this chap leaves. So I sent another chap. I said, वो देखो किसी को बोला था कैंटीन से सामान लेने के लिए वो लाया नहीं. And then I saw that chap coming, running, and he says, he comes, salutes in my office and says, Sir, liquor khatam ho gayi. I said, मैंने लिकर कब मांगी? मैंने तो आपको आइटम बोली. आपने बोला ना सर, जो लिख कर दिया वो हो गया लिकर. Our ears are quite tuned to listening to what we want to listen. Liquor goes into your ears better than anything else. I said, नहीं, मेरे को लिकर नहीं, मेरे को ये आइटम चाहिए, जितनी जल्दी ला सकते हो. What went wrong? What went wrong? It was my failure of communication. It was not his fault. Why? Because I didn't get feedback. I didn't ask him. अब समझ गए क्या लाना है? Ami teaches us that, but somewhere I slipped up. I assumed that the message was clear just because I said it clearly. Many times, even in our families, we'll tell our children, तुमको बताया था ना अच्छी तरह से, कितना क्लियरली बताया था. अरे आपने क्लियरली बताया था, पर उनको क्लियरली समझ नहीं आया. So we have to get into a habit of, after you give a message, check back. What did I say? Please repeat. And in the army, we do it very, very clearly. This was one of my lessons where I failed. Not that I had not known, but I didn't implement it. So by not asking for a feedback or for a confirmation of my message, I allowed room for assumptions rather than ensuring clarity. In other words, I didn't spell things out clearly enough. I learned that a simple instruction can go wrong if the communication isn't clear and confirmed at every level. And this can be disastrous. In business, in army, in any organization, in a family, everywhere, communication is the key. The business lesson that we can learn from it is that I fail to confirm understanding, avoid assumptions, and make sure our message is crystal clear. This has to be done in the business as much as is required in the army. You have to, whether it's your stakeholders, your teams, anyone, right? And from here, I go to one more thing. When I was doing the staff college, our commandant said something which has stayed with me forever. He said, whenever you make a communication, now we didn't have email that time, but whether you wrote a letter or you made a phone call, you must get, and if the things don't go as well, and if somebody asks you a question. So if I send out, let's say, instructions for an event, and from my units which received that communication, somebody said, sir, what will be the address? Which means I failed to communicate completely. I didn't communicate completely. There are 5 C's. I'm not going into details because they're very common. And it is about clarity, completeness. Completeness. Was the communication complete or incomplete? So when we keep these 2-3 things in mind, our communication becomes much better. Now, as a leader, you don't only communicate to get a message across, you communicate to influence. Because John C. Maxwell has said, and I go very strongly with this, that leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Did you communicate to influence? Leadership is the influence, but communication is the tool. So if you don't learn how to use this tool, it is not good enough. I'll come to the next thing, and before I show you the next slide, let me ask you, simple thing, that communication, I told you, is the message, that I have a message I want to convey to you. But where does that message come from? What is it that I want to say? That communication happens here in your head. Your inner voice. Should I say this? Should I not say this? Should I say this much? Should I say that much? Should I say now? Should I say later? Then I've got 20 ideas. Which one do I convey? Which is the most primary thing I have to convey? There's a fog in your mind. There's a clutter. There are too many things. What do I say? When you carry out an analysis inside your mind and then say, your inner voice will become clear, your message will become clear. Our elders used to say, and we've heard it all our life from our elders, think before you speak. And that's exactly what is meaning. That thinking, what they said, was not normal thinking. It was a debate in your mind, an analysis. So therefore, you give it out. So I call it inside out. First, you get a message clear inside your head, and then you should know how to communicate outside so that whatever was the depth of your message, that goes out clearly to the person who's listening to you. Now, why communication is a leadership skill? As I said, leadership is influence and communication is a tool. Communication is not about speaking more, it is about being understood. Every conversation is an investment, and leaders must aim for high returns. And poor communication costs trust, time, and business outcomes. So, this makes it very, very necessary for us to make sure that we are clear, concise, complete, and understand what we are doing. And when you get a confirmation, when you get a feedback, the thing makes a lot of difference. Now, the thing is, speaking, speaking, speaking. That is what we were told is communication. When we were kids, you heard about public speaking contest. Who heard about public listening contest? Did anyone ever tell you in your school, at your home, be listening be important है? किसी ने emphasis नहीं दिया. Everything was speaking, and therefore we grow up thinking that a good communicator is a good speaker. A good communicator has to be a good speaker, no doubt, but he has to be a listener. And for leaders, my biggest lesson, which I've learned the hard way, because I speak a lot and listen less, I have now made very deliberate efforts to make sure that I listen more than I speak. So when I'm talking to my teams, I try. Of course, my team will sometimes say, you say, but you still speak too much. I have to understand. And if I can't do it, I must tell you, you must do it. Listening is the key. Now, while we are doing this, there's one more important thing and a very important thing. And that is, no, just a minute, I think we made a mistake here. Okay, I'll go back to, okay, in any case, let me finish this. That time is your great asset. And I'm very fond of my time management techniques. But what I'm saying is you have to make every conversation an investment, okay? Now, the last one or two things I want to talk about is that you need to internalize your thoughts, filter that noise I told you, simplify your message, one clear, memorable line. Listen actively, not to respond, but to absorb and understand. Manage your time, not manage, actually manage your work, your most valuable asset, and difficult conversations that learn how to handle objectivity, transparency, and empathy. This we did not cover today, but maybe we'll do it some other time. So, therefore, I want to leave with you for the time you invested on a Sunday to listen to me. Here is a small gift for you. You can scan this QR code and you will get a wonderful set of actionable tips for corporate leaders, which tell you how to speak to influence and connect and grow. Thank you very much. Jai Hind. I have finished. If there's any time left and there are any questions, I'll be very happy to answer them.
ओफ मेरे को लग रहा था कि टाइम कम पड़ जाएगा. आई वाज प्रेइंग टू गॉड कि समय रुक जाए, यू नो, टाइम शुड स्टॉप सो एटलीस्ट यू कैन स्पीक 2 to 3 hours, बट आपने बहुत जल्दी खत्म कर दिया सर. So still you have 5 more minutes instead of
Okay,
you.
so if I have 5 more minutes, I deliberately left them because I thought that today's discussion was more about you sharing and we coming out with solutions or what are your. So I was going to do a breakout room, and if we did that, I'll just tell you what I wanted to. Just 1 second. Let me see.
You have 5 more minutes, sir.
Okay, so I'll take those 5 minutes and do something good for you. Mhm.
We want to listen from you, sir. You speak anything, sir. That will be great. Rather than going anything else. You just speak for next 5 minutes. Anything.
Okay, okay. Right. So let me just glance at my points so that I give you something really worth it in these 5 minutes. Okay. Let me just expand a little bit more about this internal noise, because this is one part of communication that I haven't heard any people talking about. It's very important. So what happens is, I told you that there is noise inside your mind. What is this noise? It is emotional noise, that there are some feelings coming into your mind. Will this person like it or not? If you're in a boardroom, you want to say something, there is some fear coming in. If I say something wrong, the boss may not like it, my promotion may get affected. Or you feel that people will laugh at me and say, is this a, ye kya baat thi bolne wali, or something like that. So this fear of yours lets you not speak. And while you are you're struggling in your mind to ask yourself, should I say this or not? You find somebody else saying it. And there's a lot of applause and clapping, and that chap gets into into a limelight. And you keep putting your hand and say, oh my God, ये point तो मैं बोलने वाला था. You miss that opportunity because you did not prioritize. You did not get clear thinking before you came for the meeting. You were not prepared enough. And most importantly, you didn't have the confidence to say what you want to say. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you one thing, that if you know what you want and if you're sure about your point, then don't care about others, just say it. And you'll be surprised that if you say it with conviction, you mean it, and you know that it's right, you'll never, never go wrong. Okay. The second thing is, tonality matters a lot. I told you, it is not only what you say, it is how you say. I've got a simple way of telling you. Let's take a simple sentence. And the simple sentence is, I didn't say I don't like chocolate. Simple sentence. I didn't say I don't like chocolate. Now, if I say like this, I didn't say that I didn't like chocolate. That means I didn't say, somebody else must have said it. I said, I didn't say, मैंने बोला ही नहीं. So now the emphasis on it's not on me, it's on the matter. I didn't say. I didn't say don't like chocolate. अब the emphasis on chocolate. मैंने तो ये नहीं बोला कि मेरे को chocolate पसंद नहीं है. ठीक है? It's the tonality that makes a difference. You know, I once got a very bad feedback from a corporate company where I gave this example, but I still think that example is very valid because somebody said you used a bad word. But I'll tell you, when we in the army, we are in the academy, we become very good friends. And if I met somebody after 10 years and both of us are majors, we meet on the platform, you see somebody coming from a distance, you come close, I bloody bastard, how are you? That bastard didn't matter. The how I was saying, what did I mean? That chap also understands कि मैंने गाली नहीं दी, मैं इतने प्यार से बोल रहा हूँ उसको. What you say is not important. How you say is very important. So if I was to say that if you listen to just these three things, that what I said is at the same that what he understood. And what he understood is more important than what I said. Because the action is going to take place on what the other party understood or received and not on what I said. Second thing, let me tell you, you may be the CEO or you may be God. In the army, when you think, now, I'm a brigadier, I have said it. It doesn't matter who, what rank. It matters who said what. Content is important here, the author is not. Similarly, when you give an instruction in your company, don't worry about whether you're the CEO or the business owner or something. When you say something to a customer, you say something to a holder, it is what you said and how you said that's going to make a difference, not who you are, not what's your authority, not how many certifications you have got. Not whether you are a PhD. Doesn't matter. बोला क्या आपने? What did you say? And what was it understood as? So that is what I think.
Thank you, sir, for making our day. It's really amazing time we had today, and we learned something which can change our life. Thank you for having giving this knowledge, and definitely I will approach you for one more 2 hour session. I'm sure you will give that. Okay, going forward to